Tuesday, April 29th, 2025. And of course, a lot's going on in the world and around the world. So we'll be talking about that here on World Edition and seeing what folks have to say about what's going on in their part of the world. But Spain and Portugal focus on the cause of a huge blackout with power almost fully restored. And I know that that impacted one of our founders here on the network, and Nick Palveda. So we'll see if he comes in and he's got thoughts about what was happening. Because I think he was without power for a number of hours and everything. But Spain and Portugal have ruled out cyber attack as the cause of the power out, and definitely travel chaos is continuing. So a day without power, what 12 hours of darkness look like in Spain and Portugal? That is what folks are asking about, and all along those lines. So folks are definitely checking out that and seeing what was going on in that regard. So definitely there was a number of power outages in those two countries, and we'll definitely see if other people join us and what they've got to say about what took place in that regards as well. I see that Nick Palveda is with us, so he might have some personal report later on and everything like that. Uh, definitely, Cardinals announced the pre-conclave mass at the Sixth General Congregation. So definitely, we'll see who the new pope is and everything like that. They're even saying that there is a contender for the papacy that is in the mold of Francis. So we'll see if they maintain the person that was there or if they go in a more conservative direction and everything like that. And as the Vatican prepares a conclave, the status of a once powerful Italian cardinal looms. So, convicted Italian cardinal pulls out of the conclave to choose the new pope. So, disgraced Cardinal Beccio withdraws from the conclave to elect the new pope. So, definitely, we'll see how that goes, as that will begin on May 7th. And we'll see who they decide to choose. And sailors hurt as a $60 million U.S. jet falls off an aircraft carrier dodging Houthi rebel strikes. So, U.S. fighter jet rolls off the aircraft carrier as ship reportedly swerves Houthi fire. So, definitely it looks like they have lost a 60 million jet at sea after it fell overboard from the aircraft carrier. So, that is something that I'm sure folks will be talking about as well. And Israel spy chief to step down after a dispute with the prime minister exposes a deepening rift. So the government's decision to cancel Barr's dismissal is a cynical trick designed to prevent high court ruling, is what a watchdog group is asserting. So we'll see how that goes as well. And definitely there's a lot going on in that space. Finnish leader has warned the Kremlin, you don't play with President Trump. So that is something that folks are saying as well. And a 5-year-old girl and her parents were among the dead in a car attack at a Filipino festival in Vancouver. So I believe that took place on yesterday. And a 1-year-old is in critical condition after that attack. And definitely the devoted and loving father has also been hospitalized as well. And it looks like after Up Hezbollah video, Irish band Kneecap denies supporting terrorists and all along those lines. So Kneecap apologized to the families of Sir David Amos and Joe Cox. So they've apologized to the families for the kill your MP remarks. So they're saying that they do not support Hamas or Hezbollah. And the first batch of Hong Kong Democrats freed after 4 years of jail for subversion. So the first batch of Hong Kong Democrats freed after 4 years in prison for subversion. So we'll see how folks react to that as well. And Pakistan defense minister says military incursion by India is imminent. So the Pakistan defense minister says military incursion by India is imminent, and India can starve us, is what farmers in Pakistan are saying as they decry the suspension of a crucial water treaty. So they're saying that India and Pakistan are on war footing. Can they be brought back from the brink? So there may be another conflict about to take place as well. So global arms spending made the biggest post-Cold War jump in 2024. Israel defense spending jumped in 2024, part of the overall rise in the Middle East. And it definitely looks like global powers are boosting military budgets by record percents. And I'm sure some of that is fueled by the war in Ukraine as well. So definitely a lot is going on in that space. And dozens of African migrants were killed in the U.S. strike on Yemen, Houthis have said. U.S. has hit more than 800 targets in the Houthi bombing campaign. So definitely that is something that goes on as well in that space. And after Putin calls for a 3-day ceasefire, Trump reiterates his demand for a permanent Ukraine truce. So Putin has declared a temporary truce during Victory Day anniversary celebrations. He did that on yesterday. And definitely Trump is saying that that is not enough. So he wants a permanent truce. And 27 people were killed in a restaurant fire in northern China, officials say. So definitely, and 3 others were injured. So that is something that was going on in the Chinese theater as well. And Iran says fire extinguished at a port rocked by explosion as the death toll rises in that particular incident as well. So definitely that is some of the things going on in the world. Let's see what's happening in the U.S. And then I'll bring my fellow panelists on and see what they've got to be talking about, including that whole situation with Canada's election. So Carney aims for global leadership role against Trump after his win in Canada. So definitely he warned that Trump is trying to break us. So it looks like he'll be remaining prime minister as the Liberal Party defeated the Conservatives in the country to the north of us and all along those lines. And authorities believe the crash to Illinois after-school building that killed 4 looks like it was being deemed that it might not have been an accident and all in that sense. So 4 children were killed, 6 injured after a vehicle crashes through an after-school camp. So definitely we'll see what more is reported on that. And Trump is ordering targets sanctuary cities. So California sanctuary policies are faring under pressure from Trump. And I believe that Durham might even be a sanctuary city as well. I have to list and remember if that is the case or not. But Trump signs an order requiring a nationwide list of sanctuary cities. And some folks are wondering what this could mean for Philadelphia. So definitely this is something going on. And the White House is blasting hostile Amazon over tariffs while marking Trump's 100 days. So this is Donald Trump's first 100 days. And we'll see how folks are reacting to his first 100 days and all in that space. And CNN poll says frustrated Americans want more checks on Trump. Most Americans see Trump as a dangerous dictator, according to the latest polls that's out in that regard. So definitely it's not a good response in that sense. So we'll definitely see what folks have to say in that regards, but definitely even a sizable chunk of Republicans say Trump is going too far. So that is something that is being reported as well. And takeaways from day one of the police officer's murder trial for Patrick Leoa's death. So definitely that is something that is going on in that whole area of Michigan and everything like that. So definitely the folks are following that case. And a frantic Mayday call revealed chaos after that deadly Florida ferry boat collision. So victim who was killed in the boat collision near Memorial Causeway Bridge has been identified, but definitely that's something that was going on in Clearwater. So definitely a lot's going on in the world and all in that space. And apparently Pritzker has hit a nerve in Trump's world. So Pritzker thunders against do-nothing Democrats as he stokes some 2028 talk about being a candidate there. So top White House aide says Pritzker's call for mass protests could be construed as inciting violence. So we'll see what goes on in this space with the Illinois governor. So he defended his searing New Hampshire speech, as some say the words meant violence against the Trump administration. And I know that Reverend Barber, I think on yesterday and the day before, had some rallies even in D.C. against Trump as well. So there are some protests that are going on in that space. And Congress approves a revenge porn bill backed by First Lady Melania Trump. So the first major U.S. law to fight AI harms and deepfake abuse. So Congress passed the Take It Down Act despite major flaws in that particular situation. And Governor Hochul in New York has announced a $254 billion budget that bans phone use in schools and is sending out rebates as well. So that's what's going on in the New York part of the world, while severe storms are stretching from Wisconsin to Texas with strong tornadoes possible as well. So definitely that's something going on. And even Republicans are considering unraveling a key part of Obamacare in Trump agenda bill. So Congress weighs drastic cuts to Medicaid and disability services. And the Supreme Court is weighing whether law enforcement can be held accountable for the raid on the wrong house. So Supreme Court is considering a lawsuit arising from a wrong house FBI raid. So we're going to see how this all plays out and all along those lines. But I'm going to bring in Sasha Starr, see what he's got to report on what's going on in Canada. We've got a Mark Carney that looks like he's ready to take on Trump and things like that. And we've got other news that is coming out of Canada as well. So how are things going in your way? Did you get out and get your vote in yesterday? And how are things going with you and your wife and just the campaigns in general and the into
Yes, thank you, Mark. We voted yesterday. Our vote didn't help much to Bolivia to win the election. And this is a real tragedy of what's happened because they were ahead of liberals just at the end of last year, 25 points. And there was nothing that would indicate not even the win of liberals or even any meaningful battle for the prime ministership. However, few things happened. Number one, Bolivia had such a lead that their election machine essentially worked how to preserve the lead, and therefore it would call for less and less public appearances on Canadian television networks, for example, and others. And because there is no need to increase lead, which is 25 points, so you preserve lead. And the best way to preserve it is not to be on a national TVs, simply because some slips or some mishaps could affect your chances. But if you're not there, you just remain ahead substantially, with most likely result winning the election. Next thing happened is that Trump started to make all this stupid insinuations of Canada becoming 51st state, similar to that. Trudeau did credible job of fighting off these allegations, and but he still had to resign simply because the lead of conservatives was incredible. So he had no choice. He had to resign, and he did it, and he did the right thing. So comes Mark Carney. That's a different animal from Trudeau. He's a seasoned professional former official of the Bank of Canada and then leading Bank of England in times of the Brexit. So he is well respected internationally. And when he became the prime minister, he was chosen by mini election, so to speak, of liberals. Then Trump continued his attacks on Canada, and Mark Carney did incredibly well thought out strategy how to deal with Trump. And it was always on national TV. So now he and liberals started to gain points almost daily. And conservatives just fail to appreciate this fact, change their strategy, become more apprehensive, more aggressive, and they failed to do all that. And even though their victory, finally, liberals yesterday, was not very conclusive, they got minority government now. And that was definitely conservative selection, as much as you can imagine. And I'm not sure if and when they will have the second chance like they had now.
Wow, an interesting perspective and everything. I did see that Carney said that Trump is trying to break us and everything like that. And of course, there's this whole notion that you just referenced, and I think Nick was referencing it in his banner and everything. This notion of the 51st state. So, what is going to happen between Trump and Carney in this back and forth? And will Carney be able to put Trump in check?
Well, don't forget that another contributing factor to Paul Reid's decision to stay away from the limelight of national television or so on, that in his party there were a sizable number of Trump's supporters. And therefore, if he would go openly against Trump, he could alienate his Trump supporters within his party. So that was a difficult thing to wait, and he simply, in the last days, actually last weeks, I don't recall any times that I would see Polivre on national television. It looks like he just disappeared. Maybe he went to African safari, or maybe he went to explore New Zealand. I don't know. Nobody ever seen him. So in as much as Carney was almost daily um, making his policies and strategy how to deal with Trump, and that was very, very popular among Canadians in the last few weeks. That's obvious. And then Poirier is failed to address that issue at all. So he stopped any public appearances for the last several weeks. How you can win election without public appearances right before election? But I think the problem is that his advisors believed that that lead of 25 points so great that nothing will change it. Okay, so it will be 15% lead, not 25, still enough to win election. And they just failed to see the danger, and they lost. And I don't know what's in the future so far. It's a very, very uh, unsatisfying result. Instead of winning for sure the election, which numbers showed just by the end of December, they lost it. Completely incredible.
Nick, you've got a lot going on over there in Spain. You got power outages, and I know you've been following what's going on in America as well. And apparently, Trump is losing popularity and everything like that because there are a number of people that are showing his polls down, even among his Republican base. So, what is your take on the world today and what's going on in Spain?
Well, first of all, Canada has a very impressive prime minister. I looked at his CV. This guy went to Harvard, then he went to Oxford. He went to St. Peter's. He received a PhD in economics, worked at Goldman Sachs, headed up major banking institutions. You're not talking about a dummy. Mark Carney is a sharp cookie as opposed to what you guys got, which was a magna cum laude from University of Pennsylvania. It's a big difference between that and a Mark Carney. So you got a major IQ differential scale, in my opinion. So congratulations to Canada. You got somebody good. 51st state is kind of a joke. Will the United States be Canada's first state? That would be, or province. I mean, you can go that way too. Although it is pretty funny, it's just not realistic. So Canada's got a very, very capable, at least intelligent leader. Now, here's what happened in Spain yesterday.
Yeah.
Yes, the power went out at 12:40 our time, which is around 6 something your time, I guess. And it stayed out for 4 or 5 hours. What happened was it showed that some of the cities have backup. Some of the places in the city have backup generators, like the streets in Barcelona were still going. And some of them, the inside, all the buildings were completely off, shut down, including our building. So it was a major problem. Since then, today, we've had 2 aftershocks. 2 outages today, Mark. But they were very quick. They were gone and back on in about 5 or 10 minutes. But it does show how tenuous the grid system is over here. I'm not sure what's wrong with it. I'm not an electrical engineer, but I can tell you there's definitely something wrong with the grid here, or they would be able to bounce back quicker. There's got to be there has to be a better system. It probably costs more money to just spend the money on it. So that's what's happening here. Other than that, we do follow what happened over in the U.S., but here's something interesting that's happening. Remember the tariffs, okay? And I said, we've got this case we're following on Lawyers Den that we believe will reach the Supreme Court of the United States. It's the U.S., it's right now the International Court of Trade in the United States and 12 other federal district courts. It deals with who has the power to do the tariffs. Is it legislative or executive branch? Well, since we've done that, you wouldn't believe what happened. The Senate passed a law to basically take this toy away from the Donald, okay? And Donald has now threatened to veto it. So to make the circus even funnier, he's threatening to veto him having his power stripped by the Senate. Now, to override the veto, of course, you need like 2/3. You're going to need to get a lot of Republicans behind it. My thinking is they may not have those votes yet, but remember I told you 30 days, and this thing isn't corrected by, let's see, June the 1st. You're going to see a revolution in the Republican ranks. It's already beaming up. And the reason why I know the Republican Party, they don't like losing money, and they're all in the stock market, and the market is down 15% artificially. All those don't bode well for the diehard, greedy Republican Party. So, he probably has till the end of the month to turn the ship around. If he does, watch the Senate and House jump up, and they're going to take the ship over.
Well, speaking of taking the ship over and all along those lines, what is both you and Sasha's thought about him? And a lot of those are red states, or in not red states, but in blue states that are Democratic controlled. But what is your thought about this latest executive order where apparently he's targeting sanctuary cities? We know Philadelphia has definitely, I think, been a sanctuary city. There's a number of other ones like California. I want to say even Durham and possibly even DC and Atlanta. But it looks like he wants a list of them and he wants to target them. So what is our thoughts around him targeting the sanctuary cities?
I mean, the thing is, if you look at it from a legal standpoint, it's realistic for him to do it. I mean, it's kind of when the cities are thumbing their nose at the federal law, you got a little bit of a problem with it, and they do that quite often. I mean, we have that also in our drug laws as well. So the thing is, if a city goes, well, we're just not going to follow the federal law, we're not going to cooperate, and they get their butts handed to them, they deserve it. The thing is, it's part of the ongoing problem that you have in the United States is that people have no respect for the law, and both parties are like that. So you can't just say, oh, it's a Republican thing. It isn't. It's a Republican and Democrat thing, that they both don't respect other people's law. The word respect just doesn't seem to exist in the United States of America today.
Speaking of respect,
what?
I was saying, speaking of respect, I'd love to hear, because Sasha has alluded to it several times, because apparently it's not the most popular place in the world, but apparently it's not even the most popular place in the United States. Because as I said earlier, apparently there's a new poll out that says many Americans, or most Americans, see Trump as a dangerous dictator. And there's even a sizable chunk of Republicans that's saying Trump is going too far. And apparently this is from like a CNN poll. So frustrated Americans are saying they want more checks on Trump. So is any of this going to matter? The fact that he is not doing well among the pollsters, even though I understand that he's even wanting to go after the pollsters as well. So what is our take on the popularity of Trump apparently waning here in the United States? Sasha, any thoughts?
My thoughts are that in many cases, Trump is doing the job of Congress. And Congress almost like liquidated themselves from any process, and they allowed Trump, who actually nothing of what he's doing went through the Congress. It's all executive orders, and which could be easily reversed by next president, whoever it might be. So this is an unprecedented case where one man dictates to all country, the poor, rich, the elite, the immigrants, whoever they are. He dictates agenda. He dictates what to do, how to do. Some people enjoy it, and a lot of people actually they enjoy it. And there is some kind of authority that you have no choice. You have to follow the authority. That's how the life is, and so therefore it makes Trump quite popular in spite of everything what he's doing, and maybe he will hurt enough people in the elite, enough so-called upper class, upper middle class, and he will hurt just enough people. They will start screaming, enough, it's more than enough, okay, just get the hell out of here. But we'll see how it will develop.
Yeah, that makes sense. Hey, just really quickly in that same realm, Nick, how does a entire because that's I found that to be a interesting yet somewhat scary story. A entire aircraft manages to fall off of a aircraft carrier because it's trying to swerve and everything like that. So, what is your take on that? Because when I saw that story, I'm going like, wait a minute, I thought we had one of the most elite militaries in the world. Even though I know Ukraine is doing quite well as well, but I mean, they're just trying to swerve and attack, and the ship manages to fall off, and we lost a major amount of money. I mean, they're saying that it's like $60 million jet that rolled off the aircraft carrier. So, what is your take on that? And there was a sailor that was hurt as well. But what is your take on this fighter jet falling overboard while avoiding the Houthi attack?
Human error. I mean, pilot error. It happens all the time. It actually happened in the aircraft that was landing in Washington, D.C. They said the helicopter pilot was ignoring the main base, and the ATC wasn't strong enough with them to say, "Hey, you have to get lower, like now." So pilot error does take place. One more thing about Trump. Okay. Here's the deal. If the stock market was up 15%, as opposed to down 15%, a lot of Republicans, et cetera, would overlook all his violations, I don't know how to describe it, of constitutional rights that are taking place. But that's not the reality, because remember, people vote their pocketbook. The stock market is down 15%. So like I said, if he doesn't turn that ship around, you're going to see all the toys being stripped from him by Congress, because the thing is, they're just not going to stand to watch the U.S. economy shoot themselves in the foot based on tariffs. You can shoot yourself in the foot, maybe other things, but please don't shoot yourself in the foot based on tariffs. So they'll vote their economics. In terms of travel, also, since we're talking about airplanes and travel. Obviously what you're going to also see, if we haven't seen it already, is tourists. The United States is the third major tourist destination in the world. Well, watch, it will plummet, because people, around the world, when they check their vacation plans, last thing in the world you want to do is go to the United States. Watch the visas applications dry up, especially when somebody can pull your visa, And I can tell you over here, since I'm on a visa, last thing in the world I want in the middle of doing something is say, well, your visa in Spain has just got pulled. Ouch.
That would not be a good thing and everything like that.
We have somebody joining us from down under. Haven't seen him in a while, Shaquille Latmer. I don't know if he's even following what's going on in the U.S. and Europe. In Europe, our electricity went down. So
I saw the blackout.
It was worse than that. I had no way to communicate because it pulls down the internet, it pulls down everything, and the only thing I could do is put a postage stamp on and send it. And maybe you'll get it in the next 2 or 3 weeks.
Well, you'll be pleased to know the European mail does operate a little bit better than UPS.
Oh, really? Okay, so
so the mail will get there.
USPS, whatever you call it over there. No, but we have actually been very interested to see what's happening in Canada with their election, because we have an election coming up. Our election is on Saturday.
You guys have elections in Australia?
If you actually have a look at if you look at the Canadian economy and the Australian economy, obviously they're different in some ways, right? Obviously we're different countries, but there are a lot of similarities between our countries. And I think when you actually have a look at the trajectory of these candidates and see what's happened. When Trudeau was there was, for all money, everybody was saying that Pierre, how do you pronounce his surname, Sasha? Is it Poilievre?
Yep.
Poilievre. It was clear he was going to win. He had a massive lead in the polls, and Trudeau had become increasingly more unpopular, even amongst his sort of liberal base. Now he's ended up resigning. He's been replaced by Mark Carney. And I think, as Sasha alluded to before, the guy was in charge of the Central Bank of Canada. He was in charge of the Reserve Bank, the Bank of England, and during quite a tumultuous time. That bodes well, I think, for Canada, because obviously they want to improve their international relations. And of course, there's that Trump factor. Pierre Poilievre was talking about immigration and talking about common sense politics and all that sort of stuff. And a lot of Canadians, I think, from what I've been hearing from my family and friends in Canada, were concerned about is he going to be Trump light? Is that what we're getting ourselves into if we vote for him? And slowly, his poll numbers just kept going down. I don't think he really championed the nation as much. I think he focused on too many of the wrong things. And that's really what we're seeing in Australia. Our opposition leader on the centre right, a few months ago, he was at 60 and 70% chance of winning the election. Now he's, depending on which polls you're looking at, he's somewhere between 18 and 25% chance of winning the election on Saturday. And it's gone from people talking about it being a Labor minority government to actually the Labor Party having a full-on majority. Pierre Poilievre and the Conservatives in Canada, they didn't just lose this. They didn't just lose it by like a little bit. They got smashed. They got absolutely annihilated. And Pierre actually lost his own seat. So not a great result for the Conservatives. And it's pretty, for the Liberals, they've got to be pretty happy, because it's difficult to win a fourth term, no matter what government you're in, no matter how well you start off. It's very hard to say to a country, give me another 3 years to do what I haven't done in the last 9 or last 10. So pretty impressive result for the Liberals, and they should be quite proud of themselves. I think that Trump is definitely a factor in that because of how aggressive he's been in rolling out the things that he wants to roll out and the things that you guys just talked about, sort of going around Congress. And because Republicans have the House and the Senate, they're not doing anything about it. They're not saying anything about it. So that's something that I think is concerning to people around the world.
Well, I would like to emphasize one more time that it's not only the Trump factor, which was huge, by the way, results of the election. There was a factor that Poilievre and his handlers failed to see how the lead of 25 points could evaporate so quickly, but it did. And when they saw it was coming down, they had to change strategy. They had to bring Poilievre on national television. But he felt uncomfortable because he would have to criticize Trump. And because there were a lot of Trumpists in the Conservative Party of Canada, so he was afraid to upset the Trumpists in the Conservative Party of Canada. So he was in absolutely impossible situation, whether he did what he did, completely ignore national television, which he did, or go there and figure out what to say, because there was nothing clear enough that he could say under the circumstances because of the Trump factor, nothing else. The Trump factor has decided election in Canada.
Look, I think you're largely right in what you say, but if I can apply that to say Australian politics at the moment, either you're going to be Trump or you're not. If you're not going to be Trump, you don't necessarily have to bag out Trump, but you can talk about what your vision is for the future of Australia, or what your vision is for the future of Canada. And I don't think that our opposition leader has done a very good job of that. And I don't think that Pierre Poilievre did a very good job of that. Sorry, go on.
There's relentless attacks from Trump. To be ignorant of that and talk about something, what are you going to talk about? The ballet or what? You must attack the Trump's issue. And the only way to attack Trump's issue is to say that Canada will remain independent country, will never join US or so on. That's what Canadians want to see, to hear. That's what Carney was saying time and time again. So
No, I agree with you. I 100% agree with you.
then you might as well give up. And that's what happened.
No, as I said, I 100% agree with you. But I'm saying that, look, if he's worried about losing the sort of base of conservative voters in Alberta, for example, right? There's ways that he could have worded that that are different. I think he ran a very bad campaign, and that's exactly what I'm saying about my own party here in Australia. I think that they're running a really bad campaign, and that's why they're losing after having quite substantial leads just a few months ago. I think the fact still remains really around the world. You look at Europe, that the world seems to be trending rightwards or a little bit away from, what we colloquially call the woke politics. However, I don't think that they're trending towards Trump-style politics. I think that the way that Trump has been acting since he's had a miraculous second chance at becoming a president, I think that is really concerning for a lot of people. And there is some discontent within the United States with how he's been conducting himself as the president.
Yeah,
definitely
we
that.
have, Asia has joined us, so we have Sharif. I don't know if he's followed the Canadian election, but it's pretty big over here, and I'm pretty impressed with this background, at least of Mark Carney, who they elected, or you should say Dr. Mark Carney, because this guy has a PhD from St. Peter's and a bachelor's and master's degree from Harvard and Oxford. So he's not a dummy, like some other people. Dr. Sharif is also not a dummy. So what do you think about your fellow?
You don't think Dr. Trump?
Yeah.
Trump is he graduated from his own university.
I don't think Trump graduated magna cum laude from the University of Pennsylvania. That's a new degree.
Couldn't he have gotten himself a PhD from Trump University? I mean, if I owned a university, I think I'd give myself one.
He could have got a PhD from Trump University, right? So he created his own university.
Yeah, he could have created his own university, created his own situation.
Okay.
Definitely could have done that.
Yeah, thank you. Many Bangladeshis, South Asian, they live in Canada. Even my family, they live in Canada, Vancouver and Toronto and all of the place. Strategically, Canada is a very valuable friend for Bangladesh and for Asia. But recently, they have tension in between India and Canada. This is another issue because of all of the political things and killings and riot and all of the things. But hopefully the situation will be changed. And I just, when I visited Vancouver, I find that they have economic depressions and they have a lot of things happening in terms of immigrations and all of the things. But hopefully with the new government, they can overcome from these situations. North America, always a very good ally for Bangladesh and for South Asia and for Asia Pacific. In terms of politics, culture, and economy, it has a huge impact. I know that many of you do not like Trump. Many of you do not like to live in USA. Like my professor Nick, he lived USA, and now he is in, I think, Spain, right? So maybe those who are super rich, like my professor Nick, they can buy new house and whatever they want they can do. But I always, as I have a very good engagement with the grassroots level communities, every day I meet with hundreds of peoples and I try to understand these things. Definitely, I can understand that Trump changed a lot of policy and everything, and it's hard your create problem for your economy, it's create problem for your education and all of the things. But again, I said that USA has very good impact with their culture, with their, let's say, example, Bangladesh reforming political culture. Bangladesh reforming everything, like our government system, like our different ministries, like all of the things they are reforming. And definitely USA is a benchmark for us. Let's say how we elected our prime minister or president in next elections. Definitely we are following USA. And this is heavily like come from the uh, political parties that they do not want uh, uh, one person. They cannot be prime minister for more than 2 times. They cannot. Like how USA running their presidential candidate and all of the things. So still USA, I believe, has a huge impact. Even though when the student revolution happened, example through social media, it's create a huge impact in Bangladesh. That time I was in USA, but I see that how people go for the revolution with the social media, and it's come from USA, like Facebook, like YouTube, and like LinkedIn. So still, every country has problem, every country has opportunity. Bangladesh also have problem, India also have problem, and it has opportunity. So I believe that if we can build up a good community, what Pot TV trying to develop, a very good communities, community some point they are bigger than political party, bigger than governments. It has an economic and social impact. So I believe that we can create our own world, and we can create a new world. Maybe we can go for one world policy, and we can build a better world with better leaders, with better economic issues, better cultures, and we can gain more success. That is my view. That's why I'm working with my talent economy and how it works. Thank you, Professor Nee, to give me opportunities and introduce IBM TV 5 years before. Thanks.
Sounds good and everything like that. By the way, Defender AD was asking, "Is this live and everything?" I do have a question for you, Sharif, and
Well, we might as well answer his question. Yes, it's live.
yeah,
This is all pre-recorded.
no, definitely live and everything like that. But I did have a question for Shaquille and Sharif, because there is a third hotspot, and I don't know as much about it, even though I do have friends that are from there, and I think you may even have some roots in this area, Shaquille and everything. But how concerned are we about a third hotspot blowing up in terms of like world international relations and everything like that? Because apparently India and Pakistan, and I know that they have fought before, are on the brink of a conflict again, is what I'm hearing and everything like that. So what is your take on that? Because I think you may have some Indian roots, and if I'm incorrect, you can let me know and everything.
Yeah, well, you've asked me this question many times over the years. I know nothing about India. I'm like 7 or 8 generations away from India, so I just don't.
I know all about it because I used to live in the United States, and I lived there when Trump was there. So I can tell you all about India and Pakistan because I know everything about it. I'm an expert on it. The thing is, actually, since we have Sharif here, but now Sharif is in Bangladesh, which used to be part of Pakistan. Now it used to be East Pakistan. That has nothing to do with it. So he can tell us what about the conflicts are. I mean, from what I understand, you have Pakistan, which is Muslim Indians, and you have India, which is Hindu Islam Indians, and they're all Indian.
Well, I think it's more. I think it's a little bit more complex than that. But certainly the British didn't help in a lot of ways. Some ways they did, some ways they didn't. But I think the major issue with India and what happened with India is that there was so much infighting amongst all these different groups in India, and if they had they worked together, you wouldn't have, I don't think, you would have all of these different countries now that were formerly part of India. Having said that, maybe having multiple countries for multiple people is a good thing. I don't know, but Sharif, perhaps you can enlighten us.
Enlighten us, Sharif. We're living in a sea of ignorance, so we need you to bring us light.
Yeah. The Kashmir has a conflict, long time it has a conflict in between Muslim and the Hindu community. Honestly speaking, religious is good, but conflict with religion is very bad. It's definitely very bad. I do not like it. That's why some point, example, what I see in California, it looks like a standard for the global communities. So now we have a conflict. Every time I see, maybe it's like a political statements that India say Muslim do that, Pakistan say Hindu do that, and always is create problem and unstable conditions. Good point is that this is maybe 10% people they do rely on this political conflict. But 90% of the community in India, Pakistan, and Bangladesh, we are very good friend. I am very good friend of Indian people. On the other hand, I'm also a very good friend of Pakistan's. How I grow in a communities where I have a very good friend. Let's say we have a conference next week, and I see I'm uplifting this area of Rajbari and Podda area. Here, like we have a very good relation with the Hindu and Muslim and all of the community. Beside that, another two things I do not like. What are the mullahs always do? Any wrong things and anything happened, they said, Sasha, I'm your good friend. I'm not telling any bad things about you. They said, hey, all of the Jewish people doing all of the nasty things. They'll say, any political conflict happened, they said, hey, Jewish people doing. So we like to blame each other. I do not like it. Our media like to blame each other. I do not like it. That's why I'm a big fan of Pot TV, because Pot TV trying to engage with different cultural people. So we should promote Pot TVs like a global communities media, especially for open discussion, for open dialogues. That is the way we can improve the political culture of India, Pakistan, Bangladesh. Yes, we can improve USA also. I think this is a very good opportunity for Professor Nick and Kimberly and all of our speakers to make a very good friends and make things happen. So that's why I want to invite you our uplifting strategy in near the Padma. So you can engage with 100 million peoples in, but because the Ganga and Padma has rivers, and we have a relation with India and Bangladesh and the Bay of Bengals. So Bay of Bengal is the place that where all of the business and everything happening through the South Asia and everything. So I think we can engage, we can invite different cultural peoples, and we can offer them a open society like USA. That is the way of doing things. Even I want to invite my friend Sasha. Don't worry, I'm your good friends. I can take care of you, because there are many good friends I have from Jewish communities. So it's actually lack of experience. Religion-based conflict, it's lack of understanding about humanity. So I want to overcome from this situation, and Pot TV can play a role for that.
It sounds really good and everything. I do have a question for everybody on the panel that actually kind of alludes to what you were talking about. And I know that Nick travels a lot. He's in Spain now. And Shaquille, you definitely travel the world and everything
I'm
like
just
that.
going to go off camera because my battery's dying. I'll be back in like
Yeah,
10
no problem.
seconds.
I said, and well, I know Sasha travels the world as well. And there is a notion of what's going on, that there is a lot of kamikaze attacks going on. So we're talking about travel and the safety and everything like that. So should people be concerned about that? Because I know that there was that attack in Vancouver at the Filipino Festival, but they're saying that there's a lot of these vehicle ramming attacks around the globe and everything like that, whether it's in Europe, whether it's in Asia, whether it's in South America or whatever. So how concerned should travelers be about the possibility of kamikaze vehicle attacks? There's even been some of those here in the United States as well. So how concerned do you think people should be about this notion of people that are willing to sacrifice, I guess, their body for whatever their cause is?
You should
So
be,
I think random. Yeah,
absolutely.
go on, Sasha.
Yeah, you should be very concerned. I'm preparing to a big trip to Europe, and there are certain events that I'm planning to attend. There will be very good theater show at Russian Dramatic Theater in Riga, Latvia, which I'm planning to attend. There are some fantastic performers involved, and I'm very worried about it because there is a substantial Russian actors who are trying to destabilize life in Europe, in particularly former Soviet Republic like Latvia, and it's definitely have to be very, very careful about. I'm planning to arrive earlier, much earlier than the show will start, and leave very carefully. I will have a personal driver, but still there are a lot of precautions that have to be taken.
Sasha, when are you going to Riga?
The reason that I'm going to Riga is, first of all, my wife Nava was born there.
Mhm.
I've never been to Riga at all. Uh,
Okay.
almost all family was murdered during the Holocaust, and she wants to see the cemetery where they have some.
When are you going? What month?
Oh, what month? I'm going on May 19th, but first we are going to Poland. We are going
Okay.
to, there was the business that I had there still functioning, and my former partner will meet me. We will go to see the factory, and I will visit also Krakow. And from there, I will fly to Riga, spend a few
Mhm.
days there. Then we are flying to Czech Republic, the Prague, and from there we are flying. We will visit also Karlovy Vary, and also then we will fly to Barcelona and we'll spend there a few days. And from Barcelona we are flying back to Canada.
Sounds like a good trip and everything. Shaquille, to get back and everything like that, because I was asking about security and everything like that. In people are doing world travel, particularly when there are kamikaze attacks, and even a Democratic candidate that some people are saying incited violence by saying to folks to rise up and everything like that. That being J.B. Pritzker and everything. And I would say that Reverend Barber may have done some similar kind of things as well. So, what is your take on world safety, particularly with the kamikaze attacks and with people having very polarizing views about different folks, whether it's Trump, whether it's AOC, or a number of other people that are out there. So, what is your take on world safety at this particular time?
When you're saying kamikaze attacks, I assume you just mean sort of random attacks on civilians as opposed to planes being randomly
Right?
flown
They're
by
like
pilots
they're like a
into
number
naval
of attacks
ships.
where vehicles have been ramming people.
Yeah, well, we saw one in Vancouver just recently, obviously, and I sent messages to my family to straight away to make sure that they were all okay and that sort of thing. Look, we with the luxury of living in the West, we are relatively safe. There's not, the reason why there is so much news coverage when there's an attack like there was in Vancouver is because it doesn't happen that often. We do see a lot more of those sorts of things, shootings and all that sort of stuff happen in the United States. But for most of Europe, Western Europe and Australia and Canada, and really even the US, we're pretty safe. I think that we are lurching towards a more unstable world. At the moment, there's a lot of politics in play. There's a lot of concern about the power of multinational or international organizations. And we need to pay attention to that. But the reality is that everybody everywhere has the same sort of desires. We desire to be free and we desire to be safe. And that has to become the primary thing, is that we can live in a peaceful world. Unfortunately, as we well know, there's a lot of money to be made out of conflict, and there are some special interests that like it. But I think that most human beings on this planet want to and deserve to be able to live in peace and to live in safety and have their basic needs like food and shelter and clothing and all of those sorts of things, healthcare, taken care of for them or accessible to them.
Yeah, it makes a
And
lot of
that
sense.
should be the
Shaquille,
idea that we're chasing.
yeah, Shaquille, I've got to tease you though, and everything, because this is my time to have fun with you. You sound like a screaming liberal, because a lot of my liberal friends also go against multinationals as well. And I know that you are portrayed here as being a conservative, but that sounded like a very liberal statement. Because if you hear any of the people that were involved in occupying some of the liberal things that I was involved in, that was their number one complaint, was the multinational corporation. So you sound
I
like a
was
screaming
more
liberal.
talking about the organisations as opposed to multinational companies. I was talking about sort of government, intergovernment agencies. But I've never said I was a conservative. Jahovi and Kimberly and other people like to paint me as a conservative, but I'm not one. I never have been. I just don't approve of the way that Joe Biden was running the country. I don't like the Labor Party policies in the UK of increasing taxes and all the things that they've talked about doing. So I sit centre right, but that doesn't mean that I'm a raging conservative or that I'm a lunatic that's going to go around there saying, hey, if you break your leg and you don't have enough money to pay for it, that's on you, self-reliance, baby. No, I think the healthcare system in the United States is reprehensible and should be embarrassing to Americans when they go and see what healthcare looks like elsewhere. So, as I said, I think that all human beings deserve to have, a nice, peaceful life. And we've actually signed international agreements to provide for that. For example, the UN Declaration of Human Rights, that actually sets out that people should have access to all these sorts of things, what rights they should have. But I don't believe in an overbearing government. So I think that you have to have things in balance and in moderation.
That makes sense. That's why I was teasing about that, because, like I said, as soon as I heard multinational, I was like, wait a minute, this sounds like some of the rhetoric that I heard before in the Occupy, which would have been like probably 17 years ago, before the pandemic.
But remember something that let's just take Occupy Wall Street, right? Now, obviously, as a person in finance, I didn't really agree with it, because I thought I'd personally attribute more of the blame on government. But
Right.
Be that as it may, Joel Jamal was interested in that as well. Joel Jamal was a Bernie bro, right? Now he runs Turning Point Australia. There's a lot of people who've become very frustrated at the left's focus on identity politics as opposed to the left's focus on the things that they used to care about. Okay. Today you hear centre-right voters in Australia and to a lesser degree in Canada talking about social welfare programs should be well funded for the people that live in the country that rely on them, as opposed to the money being spent on new people coming in. That was never something that they would have said before. They've never talked about strengthening healthcare and education, that sort of stuff. So there has been a change in what people are actually talking about. And I think that there is a difference between left or progressivism and being woke, if we're going to use those sorts of terms. I think that that's what people are rejecting, right? I think that that's where the issue is. And for me, that's where the issue is, because I don't like the identity politics stuff. But that doesn't mean that I think that education shouldn't be accessible. Well, I've never made that argument. In fact, I say that we should make it more accessible by trying something like the school voucher program. Now you've got people like JB Pritzker, who's a billionaire, right, who comes from a very, very wealthy family, okay, and I think it was his niece or his daughter that they put in some movie back when she was a kid, very powerful, very wealthy family, talking about using the megaphone and rioting and all this sort of stuff, or whatever it was that he said. Look, Donald Trump won the election, and whether you like it or not, he won the election, right? It's okay. In a couple of years' time, or in 18 months' time, you're going to have your midterms, right? 2 years after that, you can vote for a Democrat, right? Your politics changes. The same thing in Canada. If I don't like the person that's there, I don't live there. But if I don't like the person that's there, well, that's up to Canadians to choose. If I don't like the Prime Minister on Saturday here in Australia, well, I get to vote. That's how our democracy works. Sorry, Sasha.
Unfortunately, during this time, whatever he will be in power, he will create so much damage that some of it, or most of it, will be irreparable. Also, he has a chance to change the laws or constitution or both, and try for a third term, which he already announced that that's what exactly he's going to do. It's not going to be easy exercise, but doable for sure. If what he's done on January 6th insurrection, why he will stop right there? He can do it many times over and over again. So the damage is there. The international relations of the United States with most of the countries, including its neighbor and biggest trading partner, Canada, are harmed beyond any repairs. Canadians, this Canadian people, and I'm talking about not necessarily my age, I'm talking about younger people, much younger people. They completely boycott United States. They are not going to do any trips to United States in any near future. They are not buying American goods. That's a result of
Sasha,
Trump. Enjoy.
But Sasha, let me just say, first of all, I don't think that the relationships will be irreparable. I think that things can always change over time. But let me just say that the opportunity that's being presented in your country to mine and to Europe is that we can enhance our trading relationships with each other if America becomes too isolationist. And so that's a good thing for us. It may not be so good for America.
Okay.
Fair enough and everything. On that note, we're getting ready to get out of here, and all along those lines, we'll have some more discussion on tomorrow on another edition of World Edition. I know we've got the investment show. No, that's actually Tuesday, so that we got that coming up. We got Russia Ukraine coming up right now, so we got to get ready to get over there.